No more dungeon. Good. Baby. They weren't kidding about the infinite thing, were they? I was gonna say, please do something other than just let me punch you. You're to be stuck until it stops doing this. Whatever's going on now, it's kind of neat. There you are. I kinda like this. Here comes the pokies. Like, I suppose the problem is it hasn't actually done anything that can hit me yet. I'm sure it can, but it just hasn't. Oh, there we go. Finally. Took a very small amount of damage. Also, the mystery of where it pops up is pointless because there's a mini-map that shows you exactly where. Aha! You grabbed me. Stop that. Grabbies is not what you want to have happen. Probably not going to get any damage in this cycle, but that's fine. Good. Just a little bit. And it's over. Please be another form. I don't think there's another form. See, that's what gets me. It seems for all the world that the game wants me to be a much higher level, but then the boss just dies like that. It's like, really? Is that what's happening? Please be another, like, big actual monster form. That's what I want. That is one thing that Saga does better than the last couple of Mana games have done. Final bosses should last a while. Like, SD3 did that fine, Secret of Mana did that fine, heck, FFA did that fine. Legend of Mana, kinda. But there's not much that's actually much of a threat in Legend of Mana, unfortunately. Here's a nice remake of the title theme from Final Fantasy Adventure, though. Well, that's kind of how Mana has always been, actually. Like, most of the games are in, like, very far distant points in the same world's timeline. And The Legend of Mana is kind of more like a picture of what that cycle looks like. Sort of. Don't give that line. Is it over? No, it's just begun. Please don't give me that. That is the most boring line. Though I do get the distinct feeling that this is supposed to be a prequel to SD3. The game after Dawn of Mana, Heroes of Mana, that one is also a prequel to SD3. Don't ask. But most, if not all, of the Mana games have the same, like, recurring theme of the cycle of history will repeat. The tree will die again. It will be reborn under new people. Stuff like that. So it is either is or is supposed to be like the same world very, very loosely. In that everyone has a completely different world map and they don't actually intersect at all, kind of way. Heroes of Mana is like 20 years before SD3, so that's kind of a direct precursor to its events. Because here we have the setup, like a more distant setup for the iteration of the world that SD3 takes place in. You have the Sanctuary being sealed off in its own island. That looks roughly the same as it does in SD3. You have the 8 God Beasts being taken from a different form than the ones we're familiar with and into the ones we are familiar with. And of course there are a lot of the familiar location names, but those are persistent throughout most of the series. Not all of it, though. No, I think most of the reason why Secret of Mana has a lot of different town names than the ones that became semi-standard afterward is just because it was the translation. It was before they had, put together the whole, there would be a continuity thing. Even if very distant and loose. So, as for the game, I've been rambling on and off about my feelings about it the whole night. I always like to wrap up with a final synopsis of everything. So there's a lot, and I mean a whole lot of neat concepts, things that are made better than they had been in the past. Like, instead of having one ring menu where you cycle through the different rings, you just have the 2 that you need, and they're on L and R to pull them up. So that's neat. They keep the weapon list simple and make sure each one has a distinctive use, and that those uses are persistently put to task. The only one that doesn't have a distinct use is the sword, but the sword is also, like, the best, so it has that whole is good for general DPS thing going on. The concept, I think, is pretty good, having the whole randomly generated dungeons thing going on. The idea of... Okay, the world stuff is really neat. Like, you have all of the spirits from the start. None of them are, like, considered good or bad ones. Like, nobody puts a shade off in the corner and says, okay, you're the evil one, we're gonna not use you until you're absolutely necessary. They don't, like, use Wisp as a ubiquitous good by comparison or anything. That's a thing that's been going on too often in the series, I think. Like, the spirits aren't like embodiments of good or bad in the world, they're just parts of, you know, the fabric of things. Like, they just represent the parts of the world, they don't represent what people would do with them. I think any given element could easily be used for bad purposes. But they always go, light is the good one and dark is the bad one, and I think that's boring. But this is the one, this is like the first one that actually, like, separates from that. I like the idea of each element having one offense and one support spell. But that was a thing from Sword of Mana, and that was, they didn't really invent a new wheel there. The gem system is alright. It's not like fantastic or anything, it's just kind of, you know, here's some ways to improve your stats and alter things in specific ways. It's not really anything super special. The story is okay. I did not like the villain at all. Like, he was basically just a robot. It's like, I am here to do the bad things because that is what I was created to do. So I am going to do the bad things, and you will not stop me because I'm powerful. And that's basically it. That top to bottom is basically just the story of the game entirely.